Hi, my name is Kate. I am the nurse educator here at Women's Health Network. And I am really excited to be joined today by our friend and one of our experts, Mary James. Mary is a naturopath and she is joining us from North Carolina today just for a little chit chat and then getting to know you. So I'm so glad that you're here joining us to watch. How are you today, Mary?
I'm doing great. I can't think of a better way to start my day than talking about myself to thousands of people. So
it's always a good way to start. Well, we're so glad that you're here. But like I said, this is just kind of a getting to know you. And so I thought I'd start by just asking you a little about yourself. Tell me about your career path and kind of what brought you to Women's Health Network.
well, it was a 30-year meandering path, starting, I guess, in 1985 when I graduated from naturopathic college. And that was in Portland, Oregon. And I had a private practice there for only 4.5 years before I moved to Connecticut. I moved because of market saturation, naturopathic college, chiropractic college, Chinese medicine school, a beautiful place to live, Portland, Oregon, so lots of people like myself stayed. But frankly, I think I felt a little overwhelmed by general practice, having to be able to conquer a wide spectrum of clinical problems. And I wasn't putting a lot of energy into running a business, so my practice was kind of dripping along. Anyway, I moved to Connecticut with the intention to practice. And I kept having practice opportunities fall through in Connecticut, and I'm driving around trying to figure out what place even feels like it could be home. And in the middle of that, the head of a nutritional supplement company back in Oregon, whose products I'd used and respected, contacted me. They were relatively young at that point, and he wanted me to open up the Northeast. And I said yes, mostly because I thought it would be a good way to take my time getting to know the area and figuring out where I wanted to practice. I also probably said yes because he was a salesman and knew how to make people say yes. But anyway, it was going to be a 1-year job. And I traveled all around New England and New York. That was before GPS and cell phones. I think I memorized every phone booth in New England and New York State. And that 1 year turned into a 5-year gig, mostly because I was learning so much personally about effective communication and marketing. And it was just a great confidence builder, and I was making money for the first time. The last 2 years, though, I was kind of spinning my wheels. It was not real challenging. So after 5 years, I really felt that I wanted out of Connecticut and I wanted to change for sure. And so I decided to move to Asheville, North Carolina. So that was 20 years ago, to work in the medical education department at Great Smoky's Diagnostic Lab, now called Genova. That was a very stimulating job. I was involved in all sorts of things: product development, product fixes, practitioner consults, so lots of education, lots of travel, going to conferences to give presentations, to represent the lab. I had built-in continuing education because I got to go to the lectures at these conferences. It was all very stimulating. It kind of changed over time, was a little bit less interesting to me. And then for various reasons, 6 years ago, I switched to a home-based freelance business doing health-related, education-oriented lines of work. So since then, I mean, during those 6 years, I've been doing occasional individual consults. I've been doing freelance editing and writing jobs. But my 3 main gigs have been staying on as a consultant to Genova Lab, being medical editor first to Alternative Medicine Review, which was a peer-reviewed journal, and now NDNR, which is Naturopathic Doctor News and Review, which is essentially by naturopaths for naturopaths to help them network clinically more easily. And getting to be graced by being on the advisory panel of the Women's Health Network. And I love that because of my interest in women's health. And it feels great to be talking again to the general public, not just practitioners for the last 30 years, the last 25 years.
Well, we're certainly delighted that you're here. And it sounds like you've really had a wide range of experiences that brought you kind of all over the country and doing, having your hands on all kinds of projects. Pardon me. What would you say has been your favorite or your most gratifying experience work-wise?
It's interesting that even though I spent only 4.5 years in full-time clinical practice, and it's been 30 years since graduating from naturopathic college, I look back on these 30 years, and I think the most gratifying work was actually clinical practice, because I was working one-on-one with people. I liked building the relationship. I liked creativity involved in communication, and everybody was different, obviously. And so figuring out how to work best with each person, and of course, the satisfaction of seeing what we did make a positive difference in the patient's health. So all this indirect work that I've been doing since, while it's very interesting, I can really only trust that it's making a difference. When I was in clinical practice, I got to experience that firsthand and have the relationship. And so it's kind of ironic that that was such a small piece of the last 30 years, but actually the most gratifying.
Well, and that's probably a part of why you went to naturopathic college in the first place, right? Is because you wanted to interact with people and heal. That's an important part of what we do. So how did you come about the decision of going to naturopathic college in the first place?
That was another long meandering path. I have a very checkered past when it comes to figuring out a career path. I think in my 20s especially, that worried my mother a lot, maybe even more than my wearing tattered peacoats and army surplus clothes in the 70s. Anyway, I always had a big interest in the arts, art, music, and dance, and I had an equal interest in health and nutrition. I kept going back and forth, thinking about the future. I couldn't figure out which way to go. So I decided to immerse myself a little bit. I worked for a year in a hospital recovery room. The doctors and nurses all hated their jobs, and doctors would beat up on the nurses, and the nurses would beat up on the orderlies, and the orderlies would take it out on the patients. And I thought, this is just a not very happy environment. But I still had a big interest in health. I immersed myself in art by going to art school. I still couldn't really make up my mind. Took time off. I thought about physical therapy, dance therapy, music therapy. Nothing really quite clicked. I worked in art supply and framing shops. And then I thought, I just have to pick something. So I settled on becoming a physician's assistant. And settled is kind of the operative word, because even though it was an acceptable choice, it felt okay. I was not really passionate about it, but I decided to go forward with it. And every PA program required a year of patient contact. So I moved to Berkeley to work at the Berkeley Free Clinic. And I went back to San Francisco, went to San Francisco State University to get all the science prerequisites that I needed that I'd never gotten when I was busy having fun with the arts. And ironically, I majored in art while I was there. So I had 9 studio hours a week of painting. And I worked in an art supply and framing shop in Berkeley. So I was still kind of schizophrenic. And during that time, I was in an unhealthy relationship that I needed to take regular breaks from. And so one of those weekends, I had a getaway to a lovely little town called Monterey on the Russian River. And it just so happened that that was where a naturopathic college at the time existed. And they had one more day of classes before summer break. And I sat in on classes the entire day, and I was hooked. I was passionate about the philosophy, the approach to healthcare, the students and the teachers' enthusiasm, unlike that hospital recovery room. Everything just resonated. It just made sense to me. Excuse me. So I came back from Monteria, returned to Berkeley, and I applied to the more established school in Portland, Oregon. And I moved up there, got one more prerequisite that summer, and I started the next fall, did the 4-year program. And I never had one regret about that decision.
That is awesome. That's a great story and a great path, even though it's kind of a little, probably felt very scattered at the time. It's so funny because I feel like the kind of work that you do as a naturopath is very creative in a way. There's a lot of
yes, it is.
Overlap. It's a creative art.
Yeah, it's really not. They're not all that disparate from each other.
Right. Especially compared to the sterile, cold environment of a hospital recovery room. Most.
Yeah, that was probably not the best way to check out a career in medicine.
Yeah, it's a very, very specific and maybe not in the direction that you're looking for. Well, that's great. So at this point, what areas of health and wellness do you feel most passionate about?
I love to educate. I think that's been threaded through everything that I've done. I like that feeling of hopefully making a difference. I like the challenge of communicating to different kinds of people in ways that are going to be most effective. So that's one passion. Women's health, I've always had an interest in women's health. I'm sure partly because I am a woman, but also because of the complexity in a woman's body. I love hormonal medicine, all the interactions. One time I was on a business trip on a plane and I met an endocrinologist, and I responded very enthusiastically that, oh, that must be so interesting. And he replied, you've got to be kidding. I mean, there's only so much thyroid and insulin you can give out, and then what left is there to do? I couldn't believe my ears that here was a specialist who didn't seem to have any interest in understanding all of the subtle nuances and complexities of his chosen field. But it's very interesting to me, women's health and endocrinology. And then chronic illness, I have a special interest in, especially autoimmunity. Conventional medicine can't be beat when it comes to crisis intervention, but for the chronic diseases that are on the rise everywhere, they just don't have real solutions that get to the root of the problem and be able to turn it around. So that's where natural medical approaches like naturopathic medicine, functional medicine really shine. Back in my practice, I would, aside from some customized tweaking, I was basically helping patients get back to basics, basic healthy living. And I saw dramatic turnarounds in people. I mean, I was just getting out of the way, which is kind of a fundamental tenet of naturopathic medicine. Just remove the obstacles to cure, let nature do its thing, and nature really knows how to do it. A lot of these patients who came to see me were, they'd been through the gamut of lots of doctors, and they were on lots of meds. I had an 80-year-old gentleman patient who was an alcoholic poet with osteoarthritis that he'd had for decades. And he'd been to 12 doctors and not gotten any relief, and he was pissed off and decided now to try something really crazy like naturopathic medicine. And we started working together and worked for a while, and he got to the point of essentially being pain-free, which was amazing because he refused to give up his alcohol. He thought he couldn't write poetry without his drinks through the day. So that was rather amazing, but he did get well. And then one day he he invited me to a dinner party at his house, and I said, what's the occasion? And he said, I'm having the 12 doctors who couldn't fix me and you over, and I'm going to sit back and just listen to you talk about me.
No.
And I said, well, I, for one, will not be there. You can count me out.
That would have been a great story, Mary.
All the way of saying that natural medicine can work wonders for chronic illness. And so that helps me to feel that much more passionate about it. I'm an information junkie. I just love learning. So I think one reason I like the medical editing job is that I learn from all the wonderful articles that I edit. If I write something, I enjoy the research that I have to do a better job of writing it. I'm gradually working my way toward an audio blog, which I think will consist of short audio and somewhat visual, not of me though. Audio visual blurbs on aspects of health that confuse people the most. You know, we're all so plugged into information. It makes things easier on the one hand, but on the other, we're all swimming in a sea of contradictory information and we can barely keep our heads above water. So the more that's said about things, the more confused people get. You know, what is the right kind of diet? Should I eat protein? Should I eat carbs? What about fat? Not just diet, everything now. So I would like to make that happen and help make some sense of some of it for people out there.
That's fantastic. And you are so knowledgeable. We love having you sit in on our hangouts.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Oh, I think that'll be awesome. What else are you working? Do you have any other goals that you're working on right now, either professionally or personally?
I've gotten back into art, actually. This has nothing to do with medicine, but periodically I would jump back into it, but mostly I had it on a high shelf. I've always loved figure drawing, figure painting, and I am now finally on a regular basis plugged into figure drawing classes, and I'm using my iPad of all things to do graphics. So that's kind of broadened my lifestyle in terms of diverse interests a little bit and brought out more of my creative side. I don't have a lot of time to be working a lot of other projects. I take care of an elderly man with dementia, an old friend. That's very time consuming, and it seems like a number of other people have been needing my help for different things. So I'm kind of pulled in a lot of different directions, and I'm glad to help. And I'm just so busy between all the gigs and all of that not much time for a lot more. Some dancing, some art, and then various things related to health.
Yeah, I would say that's
sounds like your plate is a satisfying lifestyle. It feels good.
Yeah, good. Well, like I said, we're so glad that you're part of the network here, part of our expert panel. And I guess my last question would be, what is it that you're hoping to bring to the Women's Health Network community? What are your goals with us here?
Well, that's a really good question. I hope that I've already brought some things, just in terms of perspective and shedding light on different aspects of health. I love writing the articles. I love doing the video hangouts and meeting with the other people on the panel, seeing what their perspectives are like. So I think in the big picture, what I hope to bring, what I hope I'm bringing, is the same thing that I would like to bring through this audio blog if I can get it up and running, which is to just reach the average person out there who wants to understand her own health and diet, lifestyle, healthy living, who just wants to understand the lay of the land a little bit better, to try to put it into perspective or words that that can reach people and make a difference.
Excellent.
That's really it in a nutshell.
Well, that's what you're doing with us. You know, the articles that you've written are so, we use them all the time. We reference them with our women that we work with, and
they're good. Thank you.
Yeah, they're frequently distributed and referred to, but also, yeah, the Hangouts. I mean, everything. You're just such a resource for us, and it's
well, it's an honor to be on the panel. It really is. It's truly a pleasure to work with all of you.
Yeah, well, thanks. You sit with some other very knowledgeable, wonderful.
Absolutely.
And so I appreciate you taking the time. I know you're a busy lady, as you said, to sit and talk with me for a few minutes today. It's always such a treat to get to know our panel a little bit better. And so if anybody watching, if you'd like to learn a little bit more about Mary, head to our website, womenshealthnetwork.com, and her picture's right there on the homepage. Go ahead and give it a click, and there's a little bit more information.
They can see that I like chocolate. They can learn that about me.
Well, you're in good
information.
So, okay, thanks so much, Mary. It was great to talk to you, and we'll see you again soon.
Okay, thank you, Kate.
Okay, yep.
Bye-bye.
Bye.